Machine here, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel. 20-minute video for 2 minutes worth of content. Gold.
Right, I'm here for another episode of Reflections, and I'm here, my guest for this one is going to be k0nfig from Complexity Gaming. Not really a sentence I ever thought I'd be saying out loud, but here we are. The world's a different world now, you know. There's all sorts of things going on. k0nfig, here's where we're going to start in this interview, mate. Is normally when you start out, you just ask the usual boring questions like, how did you get in a Counter-Strike? What was your first team or whatever? But actually, what I want to ask you is this. So I actually did an interview with HUNDEN and the whole reason I did the interview, this is when actually HUNDEN wasn't actually that famous. He was known as sort of as a meme or whatever, but he obviously hadn't been in the Mad Lions team and all the stuff he's done now as a coach and stuff. So back then, most of the interview, the reason I thought it'd be like a unique interview is that he's the guy who basically did discover like half the Danish pros. And so it was just an interview where I was almost just running down this list of players, like, right, and then this guy, and then this guy. And it's like, just to show people who are fans, like, mate, this guy found so many people. And in theory, right, I noticed your name was one of the ones that actually sort of only half counts for him. Because on the one hand, right, you were like the first, that was like the first real team you were in, was like a HUNDEN team, you play with him, etc. But also, when I interviewed him, he even said that when he picked you up, it was actually, he considered it a gamble, because he said that apparently at the time, your rep was like, you were this really like mad aimer, but loads of people were scared that you were like cheating or there's some shady elements surrounding your past or something. So give us the story on this. It sounds like you even started your career with a bit of controversy, man. What was going on?
I don't know. People were just afraid that I was cheating all the time. Even every time we played like gathers and like small Danish tournaments and Cashville Cups and stuff, people were like accusing me of cheating all the time and saying that I knew where everybody was and aiming through people through the walls, like Flushy a little bit did and stuff like that. They were just mad like that I was better than them, and now I'm at the top there, and it's pretty good to be up here.
Sure. What about that aspect though? Because like obviously that's like the number one way that someone's going to get accused of cheating is if they have really good aim, because like naturally that is what's good, like the most obvious cheat to use is an aimbot, isn't it? It's the best way to win. So like people don't seem to realize this. Like in the game, because of how Pro CS works, if you're on the wrong team or in the wrong role, it actually doesn't matter how good your aim is. You still might not have the best stats. You know, I've seen plenty of players where this happened. But all the people I've talked to, I said this in an article I wrote about you. No joke. Every person I know who's been a teammate of yours doesn't just say you have good aim. They say you have like the best aim they've ever seen. Did you always was this even in the beginning? Your aim was just always there in CS?
No, I played a lot. I played a lot of Counter-Strike Source and CS:GO, and I played a lot of Deathmatch like every single day when I started getting into a pro team. I played Deathmatch every single day, DM and aimbots every single day when I came home from work or if I came home from school. And I just tried to develop that aim like Scream had and NPK had back in the day. And I really wanted to like replicate Scream, like how he aimed and how he pre-aimed angles and stuff like that, and tried his sensitivity and all the things that he did. Because I thought if Scream can be good with these settings, then I can surely be good with his settings as well if I have the same reaction time as he do. And I think like the same way of clearing angles like Scream does, that's exactly what I do now at the moment, yeah.
What I like about that is you actually did literally have the HLTV forum noob logic of like, if I have the same setting system, I'll be as good. But the problem is you actually are good, mate. So that did work for you. Every fan who's tried that, like it works for a week, didn't it? Like after that, everyone's rubbish again.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Fair play. So, okay, as I referenced before, the breakout was getting picked up by HUNDEN to this team. And he even says there, like, oh, listen, I had to give the guy like a try for his talent, you know, but it was a gamble. You don't know where they go. That one, like, obviously you don't want the person to get cheat accused. When you played with HUNDEN, like, I've always said this is one thing that feels like it's actually the part of the Danish scene I feel like it's underrated. Everyone gives all the credit to Astralis because they're at the top, and yeah, they've got the sports psychologists and stuff. But to me, the secret of the Danish scene is if the first team he joins a team with HUNDEN in, it's like instead of going... it's like if you're a kid in real sports and you have a proper coach when you're 12 years old, so then you learn like, right, this is how you respect authority and this is how you play in a team, and you know, it's kind of like that's like a real secret to getting on as a pro, right? Is having people who actually show you the game even at the first level, right?
Yeah, I think HUNDEN helped me a lot. Like when he took me in, he kind of teach me everything from the beginning. I came in as a youngster, I haven't really played in. I had played in teams, but I haven't played in like pro Counter-Strike or like in big tournaments or anything like that, like back in the day. I was just like going to Danish lands and stuff, and I really didn't have any proper in-game leader and a proper mentor, if you can call him that. Like HUNDEN brought up so many good players, and he brought up me as well, like took me in his team under his wing and showed me which way was the right way to play Counter-Strike. And I think a lot of people actually learned a lot from HUNDEN. Like every single player that he brought up, like Borup and the guys from Heroic as well that he took in under his wing. I think now that he's a coach, not saying anything about that stuff that happened lately, but I think that he really made Counter-Strike, Danish Counter-Strike, one of the best scenes in the world because he's a part of it.
Sure. So, okay, when you were after this team, though, was when actually you started to appear on most people's radar and come to the big tournaments, which is when you joined SK Gaming. Now, here's what's weird about that. When I say it like that, it sounds like, oh, great, you got to step up, a bit more exposure and stuff. But I have to say, mate, I remember at the time, because listen, I remember back then, even people like some of the players who were in, I think it was TSM at the time, but they became Astralis. Even some of those guys were telling me, like, oh, yeah, we're kind of like keeping our eye, like, this might be like the next player, you know, maybe one day we'll play with him, like, he's really skilled. But the thing is, when I watched that team, I used to think that team generally was just crap, mate. Like there was some okay results in there, but like generally that team wasn't doing anything, and the team didn't look good. It didn't look like it was playing good Counter-Strike. And one of the problems is, I know it was right after you because he actually replaced you, I think. I know when Pimp was in that team, he was like a mate of mine, and he was always telling me like nightmare stories, mate. Like that sounded like that team had the worst atmosphere ever, like the most toxic. I don't even like that term toxic, but some of the shit I heard, like if someone's just telling you to your face like during the game, like you just shit or whatever, like that is toxic. So that's something else that Hunden said. He said that when you got that chance to go to SK, because it was like bigger names, that he even told you like, don't do it, mate. Like this is not the right move, and that you and he. So I want to know, what do you regret that move? Was it a mistake? What was going on in that team? Because like I said, it sounds pretty wild. It sounds like it was just a bad situation for everyone.
I think it was a bad situation for everyone. I think it was a really bad decision by me as well. I wanted to join the team to get my name up in the ranks, you know, so I kind of had to do it so people would notice me more instead of just playing with Hunden and kind of being stuck at that level. But it was probably one of the worst decisions I've ever made. I also left the team like even before I got a contract with them. Like they tried to give me a contract, but I couldn't see myself playing with the players in that team, and the atmosphere was actually crap. Like it wasn't nice to play. Every single time I sat at the PC, and we had to cancel scrims because people were yelling at each other and people were crying, and it was mental.
Right. Without naming names, like it was really going that bad. Like people were just there was no like chemistry essentially.
Yep. I even left the practice once because I had an argument with one and they were just going personal and shit, and I was like, I'm out of here. I don't want to play with these guys. It's not a Counter-Strike is such a team game. You can't have that atmosphere like sitting and poking to each other and saying shit to each other all the time. Then you're never gonna get good at the game.
Sure. So, okay, after this, I've got a question to ask you here, right? Because this is a really weird story where I'm sure I'm getting the details of this story right, even though it's from memory, right? But it's so bizarre because another person in the Danish scene, well, listen, I won't give them the same credit that Hunden gets. He actually like brought the players up. But another person who was heavily involved with all talent through the Danish scene was that guy who actually later obviously had like some ownership in like Astralis or whatever it was. Some squad like that. That guy who basically owned Copenhagen Wolves. Now, this guy, mate, this guy must be like the best used car salesman in the history of the world or something. Because, like, you know, the joke of a used car salesman is like you come on the lot and like he always convinces you like to get this car. Like, so the reason why I say this is, didn't he do something insane? Like, I think it was with you and maybe with Kjaerbye as well. He had some mad scenario where he signed you. You're only in the team like a week or something, and then he just sells you the next week for like a massive. What at the time was a massive buyout. Like, was that really the story of what happened? Did you even play for Copenhagen Wolves?
I played for them for maybe 2 days.
This guy's a gangster then. Fair play. He does business, you know.
Me and Rubino and I think it was Glaive and Yugi and Magisk, we were about to sign to Copenhagen Wolves. Back then I was in 2016, I think. And then Dignitas, they got rid of Pimp, I think, and someone else. I can't
Izzy
remember
left to go to G2.
Yes, exactly. And then they wanted me and Rubino, and then he sold us, the Copenhagen Wolves. He sold us to Dignitas for an insane amount of money, in my opinion.
Yes.
Like, I wasn't worth, honestly, anything. Like, I haven't played in a single team. I haven't had a real contract before. And I haven't really, like, made a name for myself. I just played facets and stuff like that in practice with the team.
If people don't know what we're referring to here, I forget the exact figure, but even though this is like 2015, like that was a buyout that wouldn't be that crazy now for like a young player.
But it was mental back then. It was a lot of money. He made bank account of having players signed for 2 days.
Yes.
And the funny part is that at first I didn't think I would go to Dignitas because he told that the buyout, like he made a pretty high buyout in my opinion. And then Dignitas were like, yeah, we can't afford to buy you guys out, so buy us out. And I was like, or if I'm not going to Dignitas, then I'm gonna be stuck here. And you know, when you got a contract and you're happy that you got an opportunity to join a team, and then the organization kind of holds you back.
Sure.
That's not when you're gonna have a great time within the team. You kind of just want to leave all the time. But it was just it was a weird start for me as a pro player, like being thrown around in all these different teams, playing with different players all the time, and having no clue where I'm supposed to go. So it was a rough start, but we made it somehow.
The sick thing is though, mate, like when people hear that story, like anyone who was around that period, they're going to think like, wait a minute, you could have had Glaive as IGL. Like Rubino was pretty good. Like Yuki back then was like still a talent, you know, like this team's looking fucking good. But to be fair, this was when, remember people, like Glaive hadn't gone back to top pro play yet. Like that was going to happen later with Astralis. Like Yuki wasn't a known person. So, but even so, mate, that wouldn't have been a bad team. That team could have done something.
I think if we stick with the team, we would probably have been pretty good. But it's kind of weird because Glaive didn't want to in-game lead.
Yes.
And that kind of threw us off because then we had to get an in-game leader, and we tried to play without an in-game leader, but we just got wrecked in practice when we played. And then we tried to get HUNDEN as in-game leader in the team, and then we threw Magisk out, which was probably a pretty stupid idea. and then it kind of just felt like, yeah, we were just playing to play and to earn some money, and we weren't really doing anything special, to be honest. And then I got the Dignitas offer, and I said yes instantly.
So okay, when you came to Dignitas, and obviously this team themselves, they ended up having Magisk as well. Like, what was the connection between you two and your careers?
Oh, we had some troubles in the beginning. In the beginning of Dignitas, we weren't like the best friends, but we were an insane duo, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We had our arguments and stuff like that, but we didn't ever really have anything personal, or like we didn't hate each other or anything like that. But the connection with me and Magisk was different. Like we knew what we were supposed to do. Like if we popped off in a game when we played in Dignitas, we would highly likely win the game. Like if it was only me and him, it doesn't really matter who else killed anyone, or if MSL was AWPing or not. Or we just kind of carried the team for I don't know how long. Not to say that MSL didn't do anything, but we were the stars, me and Emil.
Yeah, sure.
We were insane back then.
What was it for people who are only international fans? And obviously, a lot of them are only going to know Magisk when he's in Astralis and where he's like an amazing player, won all the majors, etc. People might not know he had himself basically a reputation as kind of like a bit of a rager, like immature kid and stuff. What was he like in the earlier days?
He was a rager. He was a little bit of a rager, but he didn't really. We fixed him a little bit in our team in Dignitas. When he came first, he was of course the quiet guy, and I was also the quiet guy. Like you just want to listen to MSL calling and stuff, but then you build up like, yeah, you know you're better than them and kind of stuff like that. And then that's when the rage came, and he wasn't happy when we lost matches and stuff, but no one really is. I didn't really feel like Magisk was the biggest rager. We probably had one that raged even more, called something with C. And
sure, of course.
Yeah, I don't think Emil has ever been a rager on his teammates. More like I think on his individual level, if he plays really bad and stuff like that, that's when he rages the most.
Right. The interesting thing is though, if we talk now about like Dignitas, obviously it's going to become North when the orgs change, right? Everyone's going to remember like what you were saying there, like, oh, I was one of the stars, Magisk was. But the weird thing was, I'd say like the first 5 months or something that you're in the team, because at the time they had Kjaerbye. And the interesting thing about MSL, it's one of the things I always respected about him actually, is he has like sort of a sports mentality as to how you make a team, and he almost makes it like you'd make like a football formation, like, right, these are my strikers, here's where my midfield. And the idea in an MSL team is, it's the same thing people hate about his teams if they're not a fan of them. It's like they're kind of predictable, you know, like how they're going to play, what they're going to do. And so what that meant is, he had in his mind like where he would put the players, and most famously in his teams, the star player nearly always, in terms of like an aggressive star player, is the guy who goes with him as the entry duo. And so that was AZ, and then he put Kjaerbye in that spot because Kjaerbye obviously had skills. So that meant actually while you were in that Dignitas team, at first you felt like it looked like you weren't actually like, you were, I don't know what role you did, but you were sort of like a bit out of it. You were sort of the odd man out. Would you agree?
Yeah, I was playing the weird positions, to be honest. I think that's just how it is when you go into a new team. I think that's how everybody gets it. Like you see, no matter who is, if you take a new guy in a team, the older players that has been in the team for a long time, they want to try the new positions, and I think that was just what happened. And then later on, I finally got some better positions. I was playing BFs and Raj and stuff like that, and I was actually pretty decent at it. But I think it would have been better if I played a different position on the maps that I played in the beginning of the team. I would probably have had more kills and stuff like that. But I think it was a good start. Then I can kind of play everything now except like the hard positions, like Ivy and Trainer, stuff like that. But I think I'm a good all-round player because I've kind of played everything in all my teams.
Sure. So then after this, when Kjaerbye left, they basically did what the obvious move. They just put you into that position, and then you kind of had the team based around you. And actually, of all the players who played those positions, they were all skilled players, but you were probably the best. Like, I think you seemed to fit the team the best, seemed to work. What was that period like? Like, did you feel like you were in the right role?
I think that MSL put me in the right role, and I think that he did the job for me to look good as a player because he ran in first. He didn't give a single fuck if he died or not. Like, he would jump corners for me, and I could peek with the AK. And I think that he kind of developed, he kind of made the structure around the team work for me the best. I think Kjaerbye, when he was in my role, he did it really, really well, but he probably didn't. I overextended a lot of times and got a lot of different kills than what he did. He did what MSL wanted exactly, but I kind of took it to the next level. And I think that role for me as a player, I think that fitted me very, very well because it was so simple. Like, I didn't really have to think. I just had to kill, and MSL, he was just telling me what to do, and I think that's good for me when I was a new player because I didn't have to think. I just had to shoot everyone, and that's kind of what I liked. But now I'm thinking more when I'm playing now.
What about, like, how would you describe what it's like to play with MSL? Like, I'll give someone an example. When I did an episode of Counterpoints that Talkshow do with Moses, and I was talking to Valde, and it was actually after Valde had left. No, it was after MSL had been kicked out of North, and Valde had got, I think they'd got Cadian or something instead. The best way to describe it is this. I said to Valde, like, what did you think of, like, you know, changing, not playing with MSL? And he basically just said, like, oh, I didn't actually understand that we had a system in North until they kicked MSL. And then I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what's going on? Like, because like you're saying, like, the idea is when things are all set like that, it just seems like, yeah, it's just the way things run, right? You're supposed to do these things. So what is MSL like as a leader to play under?
I think he's probably one of the best, like, with BlameF. I think that he takes a lot of initiative and he, like, tells people exactly what to do and what he expects from them. And he's also insane at micromanaging and is, like, telling people what to do, this and that, and fake here and there and throw nades, even though he's a different side of the map. He's just sitting looking at the radar with tap down so he can see the big radar, you know? So he can see everybody. And I think that's what makes him, like, a really, really good in-game leader, that he has the overview of the entire game, the entire round. Like, he's never zoning out or anything like that, or sitting for himself in a corner hiding and stuff like that. He's helping everyone on the team, even though he's not with them. He's like the guardian angel for everyone on the team. I think so, in my time at least.
When you had this period where you got the Kjaerbye position, basically, is when actually Dignitas had the run of form, which is, I think, it's the reason why you even end up getting in the North, why there was all this hype around the team. Like, at the time, you know, like the Astralis team, obviously, they had to transition to Glaive, so they were like in a slump. Like, actually, your team was one of the best in the world. You had this period where, obviously, you won EPICENTER, you were in, like, the DreamHack Bucharest, you were doing quite well. There's a whole bunch of teams. There's like 3 or 4 tournaments in a row where the team really hit a high. What would you say about that squad? Because it was quite an interesting squad, the one with Rubino. Obviously, you still had Cage in the time, the lineup, etc.
That team was actually one of the best teams I've ever been in. Like, it just felt right every single time we sat down and played together. And the tournaments that we played, like, we never expected. Like, when we qualified to EPICENTER in the online stage, we made it through with, I think we played against Astralis and teams like that, and we knocked them out of the online tournament, and then we qualified for EPICENTER. And then when we played the tournament, we expected nothing. We just sat there and we just tried to play our best. And when we won the tournament, we finally opened our eyes up for ourselves, and we saw that we can actually become a really, really good team. We weren't expecting this, but we have the individual players and the leadership that we needed to develop a good game plan and to develop, like, good habits for each other. And I just think that the team that we played in with EPICENTER was different from the end of the Dignitas era. I think we had a different mentality back then, and, you know, when you're up and coming, you're happy to play all the tournaments that exist. And we were on the road for, I don't know how many days, probably like 32 days or 42 days. And we were, like, not burned out or anything. We were still new in the game, and we just wanted to play every single tournament. And I think MSL was helping us develop insane habits and develop us as players. It was just like an academy team, kind of, and we just learned every day and played every day to become the best, and that's what we strived for, and that, I think, that was what got us the win in EPICENTER.
Was it surreal to beat Virtus Pro in a big final? Because if people don't know, that was one of those events with, like, a massive stage set up and big intro and stuff. Like, that's the sort of place where if you're the rookie team and you make it, you're supposed to just lose. It's supposed to be Virtus Pro wins that time, isn't it?
It was. I thought that they would kick our asses when we sat on stage. When I sat down the first time, there were so many fans cheering for them. I think there were like 12k, 10k or something in the arena, and everybody was cheering for Virtus Pro. No one knew who we even were, man. We were just sitting there, you know. We were just playing, and it was just an insane atmosphere. Like people were yelling and having ski masks on and everything, and it was in Russia. It was intense, and I liked it.
Intimidating?
It was
intimidating.
Oh,
you liked it? Okay. What about, since you referenced him earlier, when you played with him, what was Magisk the player like? Like, what was his skill set?
He could do everything. He was everything, man. He could pistol, he could deagle, he could M4. He was like, yeah, drop me an M4, Kristian. I was like, okay, I can just play deagle for this round. He would kill 4 people or 5 people. It was just, he was insane, and his communication and his thought process was just incredible in my opinion. Like he was actually the best player individually that I've ever played with before. I played with great players, but Magisk at that time he could do everything. Like you wouldn't be surprised if he 1v5 the USP as well. You wouldn't be surprised if he clutched an insane round that you wouldn't think would exist, like a possibility. And he was like a teammate that would still sacrifice himself for you, even though he knew that he was the better player.
Sure. The interesting thing about the fact that in that big Epicenter final, you got the win over Virtus Pro, is they were basically your team's nemesis after that. Like those 2 majors, dude, both those times, if you, like, obviously the one where Magisk had the ridiculous cobblestone half and then they miraculously somehow win the third map, but even the other one, the Krakow one, everyone forgets. If you beat Virtus Pro there, that's like the easiest bracket in the universe. Like that's like the finals, dude. So that must have been a very strong rivalry for you guys, at least, trying to overcome those players. Because I know as well, they always used to, like, you were one of the teams they used to trash talk, especially Magisk, obviously with the column like tomato or whatever. Like they were trying to do like the psychological side of the battle as well, right?
Yeah, well, I think they were our nemesis because we were still a new team back then. I think if we had the same team today and we played against them now, I think we would beat them. Like I think it was because we have so many nerfs on and we were playing majors. It was maybe my 2nd major or 3rd major, but they've been playing majors all the time. And every single time I come to a major tournament, I'm like, I want to win this shit. You know, I want to win so bad, and it kind of gets on my nerves, and I start shaking a little bit and stuff like that. And I think they were just more calm and collected. Like if we were calm and collected when we played at them in Krakow and the other major, I think we would have beat them.
So okay, one of these majors, the ELEAGUE Atlanta major, it's stupid because it's only like, I think it was only like a Swiss system game or something, mate. But everyone just remembers this as though it was like the most important moment in history. Was that one where on Overpass you did that knife? When it was like, to be fair, that you had to knife to like get overtime or win the game or something. Like, what was the circumstances and why the fuck did you do it? Because listen, I remember literally actually, and listen, you mentioned him earlier, I'll just say it, Kjaerbye was someone who could get angry if things went badly in the game, even though you didn't lose the round. He was like angry that you even went for it, even though you pulled it off. Right? So what was it like in this? It's the only time I've ever seen someone do like a hero player and then their own team hit on him basically.
Oh, that was mental times back then, Thorin. k0n was yelling in TeamSpeak when I knifed him, and Magisk was also yelling that I was an idiot, and everything was just going ham. You know, I think it was 1 and 2 HP, and it was against Snyder, and it was in overtime, but it was only 10k, I think. 10k MR3, so when I knifed him, I actually could afford buying more weapons for them, and everybody was dead, you know, so I
you weren't thinking that, were you really? Come
not
on.
At all, not at all.
It's a good excuse now, I can't lie, you know, you figured out a good angle.
But, you know, when you see someone with the back turn sitting in the smoke, I was
sure.
like, I'll knife this guy, like, I will humiliate him. And he got humiliated, and I think that kind of threw him off the game as well, that he got knifed in a major in overtime. But I probably wouldn't do it again. I think that was risky business when I look back on it now. But in the moment, it was pretty fun, to be honest.
No, listen, I get the angle of like in that scenario, it's like the risk is too high if they like turn around and kill you while you like first doing the first hit or whatever. But it is kind of like it embodies how you play Counter-Strike, right? You just go all out. You just go to the limit.
Yeah, I charge. I don't give a fuck on how many HP you have. I'm gonna charge you and I'm gonna kill you, and that's just my play style.
What would you say? I mean, you kind of alluded to it there, where like the vibe was really good when it was Dignitas, right? When it became North, you were still a top team for a bunch of the first period, but then there was the period where everyone remembers, because it's always, unfortunately, people now just think of like people getting kicked one at a time, and then that weird meme that like MSL just kicks the players that are good. But it's like, actually, if you look at people's numbers were going down, and something was clearly wrong. The results were getting worse and worse. What do you think? Why did that team kind of fall apart? Because at one point in time, it had been a very well constructed squad.
I think it kind of fell apart after Krakow, after we threw Magisk out of the team. That's when we started getting really, really bad results. And we had to find a new player. And Valde did good when we played with him in the beginning.
Sure.
He was a good player as well. I think it was a good replacement, but it probably shouldn't have been Magisk. It should have been someone else in the team, because he could have picked up the lurk roles from someone else maybe. And then it was just kind of weird that we ruined the team with only switching one player. But you've seen it so many times where you think that this is a good move, and then when you do it, it's kind of one of the worst moves you've ever made. And like the team was kind of falling apart in North, because we were moving around. We were moving to Copenhagen. People weren't in their ride home, and I didn't have any friends over there, so I was just sitting at home doing nothing. And I really like being out with my friends and doing all kinds of stuff, and I didn't have a girlfriend back then as well, so I was just sitting in my little apartment doing nothing. And I don't think that's healthy for any player, just to be home 24/7 practicing and going to the FC Copenhagen place to play at Parken. I think that was also a big mistake by us to sit there every single day. I think that's really bad for a team. If you're that much together, then I think you get more mad at each other than what you're supposed to if you're sitting at home.
Right, one thing that will surprise people is when you said earlier that like you were quite a quiet guy, shy guy when you came into the team. Like I remember this actually. I remember when I actually met you when we were at like DreamHack London or whatever it was, when you were in. I might even have been Copenhagen. Well, no, that was SK. I think you were in back then. I'm trying to remember whatever team. And at the time, you were actually quite a quiet guy. So the funny thing is, this year we're talking about 2017 is when you really got your reputation, because not only did you do the knife thing, but I think probably the moment that really opened it, you probably remember this, mate, is when you did the ESL Pro League and you talked shit to Kenny S, you know, everyone just remembers that. But the thing I feel is lost on that, like I know that actually one of the reasons why I've always got along with Danish players is because Danes and Brits have like sort of like a very like dark working class humour. Like we don't mind edgy jokes, whereas like, mate, like that's why I always say like don't ever say like Nords or Nordic Scandinavians as all like Danes or like Swedes. Like there's so much difference, it's ridiculous, because like they are the super uptight like fucking, oh, you might offend someone if you say that. They're like they're not doing any of that shit, are they? That's why actually it's weird that people like JW seem like aliens compared to them, mate. They're like, that's not a normal Swede. So when you came out doing some banter like that, I feel like a lot of people mistook it. Like I don't know if it's like Americans who didn't get it or something, because they thought when you bantered Kenny S like that meant you were like promising you were going to win the match or something. But if people don't remember at the time, like G2 was a better team. Like actually in most of these scenarios, like the whole point of bantering like that is just, it's just your personality, isn't it? So you kind of just shit talking. Like it doesn't give us your thoughts, because people worry that it's like genuine or it means you're just arrogant or something. What would you explain when you do a bit of trash talk? What's it about?
I think it's more about creating hype about the game. Like people are always saying that it's a boring game if some bad team play against a good team in a final, and they're like, easy win for these guys or easy win for those guys, and doesn't like it's not even nice to watch. But when you create some banter before the game, or if you create some hype around the game, then people are gonna be more like hyped around it as well. And I think that's the part that I like, that people, and also myself, that I made the banter so people will think that I'm a bad guy, but I'm actually pretty nice sometimes. But I think that the best part about it is like me creating the banter, and it backfired, of course, which is super sad. I heard a lot from almost every single one. Also on my DMs and my Facebook account, I got a lot of death threats from French fans.
Right, this is going to be probably one of the weirdest fucking stories I've ever heard in my life, but we'll try and get through this one, mate. So a lot of people don't know this detail, right? Even I didn't know this detail, mate. But when it was getting towards the end of 2017, going into early 2018, right, this is obviously when Astralis had been the best team, but they'd already become like, let's say they were like the fourth best team, but they just weren't winning the events. They would make like a semi or a final. And a lot of people forget this detail, which is that they didn't want to change players. They actually were going to, all five of them, just sign their Astralis contract again, including Kjaerbye. And 2018, they would have just been that team. I mean, I always think that's the greatest fucking what if ever. Kjaerbye basically could have just changed the whole scene just by doing nothing. But instead, because Kjaerbye secretly went to North and was like, I want to join, and did this like weird big deal. It meant that they had to, like, in the space of a very short amount of time, they had to get like a player. They had to just go and get someone, because if people don't remember, back then, like, you used to have like the Pro League lock would come up, and if you didn't have the players, you get fined, or you couldn't play that Pro League season. So at the time, right, they were trying people, and I even said publicly that the interesting thing was when they got Magisk, again, people now were going to be like, genius move. Magisk, always knew he was good. It's like, that wasn't even the first choice. I even said this to people. That's why that story is so crazy. That lineup became the best, because it's like a bunch of things that they didn't even choose had to happen. But what people didn't know, I knew this from behind the scenes, was that k0nfig was the choice. Obviously, like, if you want to bring someone in, think about the roles Kjaerbye played. k0nfig's the obvious player to play. He's just done it in fucking Dignitas before. But this is where it gets weird, mate, because this is the part of the story I didn't know, because Zonic revealed it in his biography. Apparently, when he brought you in to do the interview with you, first of all, listen, you're obviously a younger man, but you made some bad mistakes in that interview. Like, for example, apparently you told him, this is just from his book, you can tell me if it's true or not. Apparently you told him in the book, like, look, all I want to do, boss, is play. I don't want to do any media. It's like, if you're in a team like Astralis, like, you have to do media, mate. That's just part of being Astralis. But then the other part, this is the part I didn't know, is apparently the timing of this was exactly when, for some stupid reason, you got in a fight with me on Twitter. Like, I did some, like, I can't even remember what it was, just some comment towards someone. Not even some, like, outrageous one if anyone goes back and looks. It's nothing, like, super evil or something. And you just, like, were pissed off or something that day, and you just, like, got in an argument with me. And apparently this is, like, right when you were trying to get into Astralis. So apparently Zonic saw that and was just like, right, fuck this guy's out. Like, bring in the next guy, bring in me. Is this true? Is this story real?
It is for the most part, yeah. I think that I've made some bad decisions in my life, and I'm trying to fix it now, and I think that I'm on the right track. And I think the Astralis story with Sonic, and I came late. I even came late to the meeting, and I came late because I was at North, at the place in North, and I had to drive from Parken to my apartment to make it for the call on TeamSpeak to talk about roles, and we talked about. We had to talk about roles and how I like to play, and I was in a meeting with Glaive and Sonic, and I said to them that North, they really tried to put me into a lot of media stuff, and I had a depression at that time actually. Like I was stressed, I didn't sleep, I was on medication to sleep, and I couldn't eat anything because I was so stressed that North had put so much pressure on me because I was the individual name.
Sure.
In North, and I said to them, I'm not doing any more media stuff. I'm not coming up for media. I only want to play. And I said the same thing to Astralis, and I think it was a good choice that they didn't have picked me back then because I was a mess. But it's honestly sad. Like I wish I would have joined back then, but I think it was for the better that I didn't join them, because I don't think I would have made them a better team.
By the way, you are implying there, like, I'm sure you didn't tell that story to them. You probably just said, I don't really want to do media stuff, right? You didn't. I'm guessing you didn't, because listen, it's quite hard as a young guy, right, to tell them, like, listen, I got all this depression, like, that. You think that might scare them off, right? Is that it? You didn't tell them sort of the backstory?
I didn't tell anyone about it. I told the team in North. I told them, and I was crying in front of the entire team and the coaches as well. And I think that it was kind of rough for me. It was a rough period of time, like on medication and shit. Like I didn't know that it could end like this, and I was kind of scared that my whole career was falling apart back then as well. And then the OpTic offer came, of course, and kind of helped me out of the slump, but still in a team slump somehow. But sure. Yeah, it was a rough time. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even tell my parents for a long time. But I came out and told them.
That actually also, by the way, makes more sense as to why you just randomly went to me. Because here's the thing, I always say this to pros, anyone can banter me. If we're all just having fun, we can do that. But, like, it seemed like you were just mad about something. Oh, I know what this, I think I'd get it now, mate. Because wasn't it when I'd said something like, I think this is the maddest part ever. For what I remember, I don't think it was even that abandoning, wasn't it? Like when I just said to Skadoodle, like, get well soon or something when he was in hospital. And I'm guessing you just took that, like I'm making fun of people's illnesses, so maybe it connected to you or something, you know?
I remember. Yeah, I don't know what I thought, honestly. I was messed up back then.
Fair enough.
So I'm sorry about that, Thorin.
No, don't worry about that, mate. It's all right. I know the backstory now. It makes sense. Okay, it makes more sense. Right. What about Like, listen, I know every stupid fan. Luckily for you, mate, at least to be fair, people didn't know you had that chance back then. It only came out, I think, let's say, a year ago when Sonic did this biography. So luckily, people didn't know that story because I know, for example, like some of the most evil fans ever have just tweeted at Kjaerbye for like 2 years now, like, ha, loser, like you could have been in Astralis because obviously when he left, they won all the tournaments and all that, right? There must be a part of you like thought about that as well, right? Like when you saw Magisk go in, obviously your old teammate, a guy you thought was a good player, when you see them go and win just everything, and basically we really do mean almost everything, like all the majors, all the big things, $1 million, Grand Slam, like part of you must have thought like that should have been me. If I'd been in a different place, that could have been me.
Yeah.
There's got to be a part of it. Like, listen, you might like that it was your teammate, but it's got to suck a bit.
It sucked. It sucked a lot actually. Like it felt so bad. You won't even understand. I felt that I had ruined my career, and it was kind of like I got the offer and to talk with them and stuff. I was so happy, but I wasn't happy. Like I was happy inside, but I couldn't like tell that I was happy because I was like in this zombie mode, depressed shit, and on these weird pills. I have no clue what it was, and it was just when I saw Magisk join the team, I was like, this could have been me. He's in my shoes. It should have been me, but the only thing I can do now is look forward and work harder than I ever had, and kind of grind up to the same level as I was earlier, and that's the only thing that I'm thinking of now. I think it's really good that Magisk joined the team. I'm really happy for him, and I think that kind of saved him from going into a really, really bad team as well. Like he got the opportunity, and I'm just happy that he made it.
When you went over to the OpTic team, and obviously for most of this period, we're talking about the OpTic, that was Snappi was the IGL. What was it like in this period? Because again, like you said, like obviously in your life you weren't in the best place, but like this was kind of a weird period in your career. It's funny that you and Magisk both had times you were in a team called OpTic where like nothing happened in your careers. It could have just ended, but like you luckily both got out of it. So what was this time period like? Because you were like an alright player, but it definitely wasn't your peak.
Well, when I joined the first OpTic team, I was living in America with Stanislav and Sam, and we got into a beef, and they turned it into a Danish team instead. And then when we got Snappi and Yuki and Nico, and I think it was me and Cajun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
We didn't have Nico at first. We had Cajun and Gade and me.
Oh yes, they swapped Gade and Nico
Yuki and Snape.
North.
Yeah. And that team was actually, I thought it could have been a good team, but we couldn't make it work. Like the puzzle weren't working. I think that Kjaerbye and Snappi had some controversy, and I think that they had some problems, and Cajun didn't like the way Snappi called, and Snappi didn't like the way that Cajun wanted to mid-round call, and it was we were like working against each other. We were really it wasn't working as a team, and then yeah, it was kind of just a downhill spiral, right? Like losing to worse and worse teams, and probably doing some good stuff sometimes, but still managing to lose to really bad teams in America. And I just think that team should never really have happened, honestly. Like I would rather have played in Denmark, sitting here and playing from home. Like we were in America for not that long, but it wasn't really worth our time, any one of us. That was why we also got MSL later on, and we disbanded the entire team because we knew that it's not going to work. Like it's not 2016 anymore.
When you say that is one of the weird parts of the story, because actually in the Stanislaw thing where he released that twit longer where he tried to tell like all his version of the story, I mean he titled it like The Truth, but whatever, it's just his side of the story. So when he told all his side, he actually mentioned that at one point in time Kjaerbye like wanted to be the IGL for a week and did it, and then like didn't like it after that. Should Cajun have just tried being a real in-game leader if he wanted this much control? Did he just always want to be the guy who had input or something? Like what would you say about that mess?
I think if Cajun wanted to have, like, he had a lot of stuff to say about the game after the games. Like, if we played a match, then he would be the one that talked the most after the game, like saying that we shouldn't have done this, we shouldn't have done that. And then I think if you're that type of guy, then you should take the control in the game and tell us what to do if you have a better idea of how we're supposed to play, instead of just being smart after the game. Because that I find that really annoying. Like, if people are smart after a match, then why don't you say anything in the game? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. And I think that he should have taken the role, but he didn't like the role because he weren't like good individually when he had it. He had to focus on many things in the game, and he couldn't take that in. I don't even think he was in-game meeting for a week. I think it was more 2 days or 3 days. And then he kind of said, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that was when everything kind of was like, yeah. And then Stanislaw didn't want to do it, and Amapet was like, yeah, you should do it, and I should do it. And it was just thrown around. It wasn't like a proper team like MSL was. Like, MSL didn't put this together like a football team, you know, with strikers and stuff like that. It was more like a scrambled egg, you know. No one could really do anything.
Sure. When you yourself were in this team, it's one of the things I mentioned in my article about it, because this was actually the time when it was the end of the OpTic era. Is you were, if we talk about before when you were in the MSL system, where it's like MSL basically was like the most selfless bait ever. He would just run out, and the idea was he was making your kills easier, so that then if you're the best player, you win the round. It's actually a very clever way to play the game, but obviously there's not a lot of players who are going to do that. In this team, there was nothing like that. In fact, sometimes you were just the hard entry. At times, you were just a guy running on your own. So, like, where something happened with your roles, it was implied to me you wanted to play this game, the game this way or something.
No, not really. I wanted to do the old method of him going first, but he when he joined, I think he was AWPing as well. We threw Yuki out because MSL wanted to AWP, and he can't really jump first and jump corners when he was AWPing because Kjaerbye was AWPing back in the day in 2016 in Dignitas.
Sure.
And we didn't really AWP that much as we did in the OpTic time. Like in Dignitas, we didn't AWP T side, we only AWP CT sides. And in the OpTic team, where MSL was AWPing almost every single round, every single time we could afford one, he was AWPing because that was the one-shot, one-kill weapon. You know, that was what he liked the most. And I think that kind of destroyed our team. I think if Yuki was AWPing and MSL was doing his in-game role with the AK, I think it would have been a different lineup, a different team. Like we would have probably made the team way better than what it was.
I know the problem if you talk about MSL AWPing is he can just say, which is a pretty cool line, like, I did win an MVP over device at a fucking massive tournament AWPing. Like, listen, that's not a bad counter argument, MSL, but the problem is, aside from that one tournament, it doesn't look that great. Like, I'll say this, he is better than I thought he would be. Like, he is like a smart player, he can use it. So, but the problem is, like, to have your primary AWPer be a player like that, I can't see how it can work. What were your thoughts on that overall?
I had a lot of thoughts, but I didn't say them because I like the guy. But I don't think he should have picked up the AWP. I still don't think that he should be an AWP. I think he should try to go back to M4. I think it has been a waste some rounds to give him an AWP, and he didn't really do anything with it, in my opinion. And he didn't really take the map control that was needed. He of course tried to do it, but he almost got killed every time if they countered because he isn't the flashiest player of all time, but he can AWP, but he's not the quickest AWPer. Like if he meets a Kenyas, he's gonna get out-AWPed every single time. And I don't think that's good for a team if they have a worse AWPer than their opponents, right? So I think that we should have kept someone else AWPing, and I think Kjaerbye could even have AWPed, and I think that would have been better.
This brings me to one thing that, listen, I'm an MSL fan as well, mate, but I also understand that. Part of actually, by the way, knowing people is you have to know their flaws as well. You have to know where they have like certain aspects that mess them up sometimes. And the biggest character flaw of MSL in his career generally, because he's a pretty cool guy, is it's just he's a very stubborn person, you know. Now that I've always said that probably works with some of the tactics. I'm sure that means like as an IGL, for example, if you call a round and it is the right round, but then your team fuck it up, sometimes you have to call it again. You don't just go, well, it failed, so don't do it. Like, you have to know when it's like, when I stick with something, it's going to work. The problem is, though, this AWPing thing ties into something else, which is, if you ever talked to MSL and you basically said to him kind of the harsh truth, which is like, listen, mate, you're one of those players who's like a low fragger, but you're a really good IGL. So just, you know, as long as you get the right players in your team and you're just the IGL, it's no problem. You can do it. Basically, he's one of those guys where it's like, whoa. Low frag, like he secretly believes he has like good aim or something, mate. Like, can you explain, like, what is this side of MSL like? Because he does have that stubborn element to him, right? Where if he's got something in his mind, you can't convince him otherwise.
I think it's more like he wants to be a good player. He wants to have good. He wants to look good out. Like he can also have a bad game and still have been a good AWPer, right? But when you see people AWPing well, they always get a lot of kills, and I think that his impact isn't that good in North as well, like when he's playing now. And I think that he's just a stubborn person, and when he said that he wanted to AWP, like, you couldn't change his mind, then you would have need to throw him out of the team. I don't think that North is going to change his mind now or letting someone else AWP. I think that he thinks he's an AWPer now, but I don't think he's an AWPer. I think he's an in-game leader that chose to play AWP because he had a rough time with M4 in a short period. Like, everybody had a rough time with a gun, like, and then you try to change. But I think if he changed back, he would make space for a better AWPer, and I think that would make that team way better.
What was it like to play under Snappi? What was he like as an IGL?
Snappi is a really, really nice guy, really, really nice IGL, always listen to the players, always trying to give them space, always trying to make tactics for the best players. You know, if you have like a good game, then he's gonna put you first in if you feel like it, and if you don't feel like it, you could go a little bit behind the other players and just send in the guys that needs to die first, and then you can win the round. I think he's a really good IGL, and I think he's gonna do well in contact. And he just needs the players to believe in him, because if he doesn't believe in that the players believe him, then he's not gonna call great, and that's his biggest flaw.
When the weird thing is, it was actually I'm pretty sure you were still in OpTic when I did that column about your career or whatever. And basically the point of the career column is, first of all, I've done a few of those over my career. The point of them usually is, it's usually a player who like needs to change something. Like, they are good, but something needs to change. And so like, people try behind the scenes to have those conversations, but sometimes it's best, sometimes if you don't know the person, just do it publicly. Just kind of send a message like, this is a real thing I'm saying. So even though you took it well at the time, the problem is, mate, a lot of people, just because it's the social media age, they might just lie and say the same thing, like, oh yeah, I agree, yeah, oh, I'm going to improve and put in a lot of effort, and they might just go and do nothing. Like, you know, they might just say it for the sake of saying it. Did you actually really think that something had to change? Had you already been thinking it before even that? Was it in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it a little bit. I was thinking that I need to get back in the game, because I felt like every single time we played that I didn't really do what I was supposed to do, and I was mad every single time we lost a match. I wasn't like, yeah, we lost because they were better than us. I always thought that we lost because I was playing like a dog. Like, I didn't do what was supposed to be done, and I didn't have the focus. I didn't have the right mentality. I was just playing to play, and I think that was what, like, the article that you made kind of pushed me in the right direction and made me do things that I've never done before, like waking up early, playing DM, going to bed again, waking up, and doing all these kinds of exercises to get back in the game. And I think that it kind of pushed my career forward a little bit. Also made people open up their eyes for me again, like giving me a second chance. I think some people have gave up on me back in the day, seeing that I kind of fell off and that I was one of the best players for a long period of time, and then I fell off so hard because I went into a slump because of the depression and stuff like that. And I think that you made my eyes open up for like that there's still opportunity for me to be one of the greatest players in the world.
When you got this offer from Complexity, it was obviously the infamous period where they bragged that they were going to build this juggernaut. And it's funny that everyone memed on them because it's looking pretty fucking good now. But at the time, like, as I even said to Jason Lake, the big problem is, even though we now know BlameF's a monster, when that was like the first signing, a lot of people were like, oh, if that's the first signing, then where's the fucking, there's no juggernaut. Like, there is no Nico coming, there's no cold Zero. Like, he's not getting any of the big players, is he? What order in the team did you join in? Like, I think they had like, Didn't they had BlameF, Rush maybe, but you were like what, third or fourth in the door or something? What was the process like on your end? Like, did you know already who they had and the order and stuff?
No, I actually didn't know. I joined with BlameF, and
right,
I know we had Rush, and I know we had Obo, but we needed the last guy. And then we got Poison at the end, but he was maybe going to OG, and
yes,
that deal kind of got scrambled because Poison said that if k0nfig is going to Complexity, then he wants to go there as well. So I kind of pulled him in the team with me, and it was just it was weird in the beginning, right? Because we were supposed to be a juggernaut, but then I was coming as a little bit of a slump player, and Poison came. He was one of the best players in Bulgaria, right, in the Wienecke team. And BlameF, yeah, he's an up-and-coming player. We don't really, like, people knew that he was really, really good, but we didn't know what he could do with really, really good players, right? And then Rush, yeah, he's won a major. He's a really, really good support player. He's also a good entry. Like, he goes first, and he doesn't really care what's on the other side of the smoke. And then we had Obo. I had no clue who this guy was. Like, I've never seen him play before. I've seen some matches with Complexity, but he wasn't like shining because when BlameF played with Shazam and I think it was Def, that team was not the juggernaut that they were expecting to have, right? And then when I finally came to America and we practiced a little bit, I kind of opened my eyes up for this could actually be one of the best teams that I've ever played in. And I think that the decision of joining Complexity was really, really shaking from my side. Like, I was scared to join because I knew that going to America would mean that I had to sacrifice all my friends again, and that I had to sacrifice my friends and family and my girlfriend here, and I had to sacrifice my dog that couldn't come with me. And I was like, this is the exact same thing as what happened in OpTic, but I opened my eyes up for that. I need to do something to get back in the game. I need to change my thought process and my style of thinking. And the only thing that made me say yes to this was your article, actually, that I had to change something. And I think that I gave it my all when I came to America. I sacrificed everything, and I think that's the only reason I'm here now.
Actually, I've noticed if anyone follows your Instagram, there's always Instagram stories of you with that dog. And because of the what breed is the dog? Like, what is it?
Staffordshire Bull Terrier.
There we go.
You should know this.
Yeah, I just didn't know the name of the breed. But yeah, it's a British dog, yeah, right? But normally if you have that type of dog, right, because they can look super muscular, it's always people who are trying to be like the hard guy, like a rapper guy would have it, and it would be on a fucking chain or something. So when I got that, I thought you were trying to do it to like flex and be tough. But all the Instagram stories, you're just being fucking lovely to it, mate. Is that like the softer side of is that the secret side that we get to see?
It's my little boy. It's the secret to everything. To love every morning and to eat. He's allowed to sleep in the bed every night. So it's the secret. I promise you.
There we go. So what about when you said that earlier though? What was the connection you had with Poison? Like, did you just know this guy already? How did you know him?
I never spoke to the guy, honestly.
So then why was it you going to Complexity was dragging him then? Why was that making his decision differently?
I think he liked me as a player. I think he really wanted to play with me, okay. And I think that he thought that I would come back to the good old level that I was before, and I kind of like trusted the guy, and I was like, yeah, if I'm going, if you're going, and then we both agreed on it, and then we made the decision.
Now, Jason Lake actually told me in the interview he did with me the story basically of what happened with Poison. It's one that I know like a bunch of you in Complexity. It's kind of like, this is the thing, even though the team themselves hadn't had any success yet, if you hear these stories, it's going to make you quite confident in your owner, because that story is fucking baller. That's like some out of like fucking Entourage or something like Ari Gold would make a deal or something like. He basically came in, and the gist of it from what I remember is something like, he basically told Poison like, I'm not leaving this room until you sign. Something crazy like that. Like, I'll do anything to do it. Like, and so as a result, Poison, even though I believe at the time was saying like, nah, I'm probably not going to do it. It's like, Jason Lake was almost saying like, like, just write the number down that you want or something. Something ridiculous. Give us your side of it, because it sounds pretty baller, actually.
Well, my side of my story with the contract?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
And what did you think of this Poison one as well? Like, did you have a similar cool meeting with him? Did he give you some special reason to join?
I think Jason gave me a little more. He was a little more harsh on me. I thought he was expecting me to be a bad guy and be an idiot when I picked up the phone and talked to him the first guy, and I kind of was an idiot, because at first I thought I sold myself a little too cheap, and then I wanted a little extra, and then we agreed on something, and it was calm and collected, but I was kind of scared to meet the guy. That's a big dude. He's a huge ass man. And I've seen him at tournaments before, and he goes ham. Like he's
always shouting and stuff.
Yeah. So it was like intimidating talking to him, but I think I'm on his good side now finally. But yeah, the deal with BlameF as well. Like, he flew to Copenhagen and signed BlameF. He sat down in a hotel room with him, and he was like, "Tell me what you want. I'll get it for you, and I just have to contact my investors." And then that was what happened. I think he did the same to Poison, and I think he did the same for me, and that's why the team got put together, is because Jason did his magic.
Because like I mean, people might know this from my involvement with Flashpoint. I've had so many times where I've had like big free agents or players in teams who were like, yeah, if I was bought up for the right amount, I'd consider leaving. But the problem is, like, teams nowadays, they haven't really mastered the art of having like a general manager who knows the game and all the players and can have these meetings, right? Because if you know, in sports, it's not just that player X wants to go to team Y. It's that there has to be like, you have to have like a vision, you have to like convince them. It's like trying to get a date with a girl. You have to give her like a great line, and you have to seem smooth. It's all about actually like the human element of it. So I feel like that's one area where I heard those stories. I was quite impressed, actually. There's not a lot of owners kind of get that side of it. They might just send you a message like, are you interested? But like, you don't know what that means. You don't know what team it's going to be. You're gambling if you take those deals.
Yeah, I think the way that Complexity have done it with us as the players and talking to us individually, and I think it would have been better if we had an agent, so it wouldn't have been like, I don't like talking about money to my boss that I'm going to meet every single day. I don't think that's a healthy friendship, if you can say that.
Sure.
I think I should have an agent like talking to him instead, and I think we got off at a bad start, because I wanted a little more than what he wanted to give me, right? So we were not friends in the start, let's say it like that. But now that we're winning and we're playing great, and I think he knows what he gets for his money, right? That I think he's happy.
Right, what about BlameF? Because obviously, again, even though you were in the Danish scene for so long, because you were in this OpTic team, I mean, part of the time, like you said, sometimes you were in America. Like, did you actually have any connection with BlameF before you joined this team? Do you know him at all?
Nope. No, I didn't. I spoke to him on the phone when we were talking about roles and stuff, and he wrote me like, "Can I call you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we just had a conversation, and the guy is really humble. Like he was a calm and collected guy as well, and we were just chatting about like which roles I wanted to do and which positions I wanted to have and stuff like that. And I'd never spoken to the guy before, but it just felt like there was like not an instant connection, but we just clicked somehow that we're kind of the same person.
How would you explain his playing style? Because obviously he is the IGL. That's not a meme. He really is. But on the other hand, he's also like the top fragger half the time. It's ridiculous. So how's he doing it?
I think he's doing it because he watches so many demos. Like no one understands like the work he put in. No one really understands what he does for the team. Like he's up 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock at night and waking up at 9 or 10 and watching one more demo before we play practice. And then he comes with all this new stuff for the entire team. He doesn't just look for stuff for himself like other players would if they watch the demo. Like he actually looks for the entire picture. He wants to make the entire team better. It's just he knows exactly what teams are doing when we're playing them in matches. Like he really is insane at like thinking about the game while it's happening. And I think that's why he catches so many people off guard, because he knows what you're gonna do and he knows what positions you like to play. The opponents, of course, and he knows what your tendencies are, like what do you do every single round and how do you start off a round. Like he just have a 300 IQ. That's how he owns people. He outplays them.
You referenced it earlier about Rush, but I figure for someone like you especially, you must love playing with a guy like that, because obviously he himself used to be like an entry and a pretty good player back in the day, so I'm sure he understands what that sort of player wants when they go into a situation. So it seems like you have a pretty good kind of connection.
Yeah, me and Rush, we're actually doing pretty well when we're entering sides together. We don't really have to say what the guy behind him has to do. Like we're just following each other and kind of revenge fagging and trying to make the best of it if it's a bad situation, rushing through a smoke or stuff like that. And he knows what it takes to jump out first. Like he's not the type of guy who's like we're doing an EPS pop in Inferno halls and he's like stutter stepping in halls or not jumping out to the left like too short. He has what it takes to be an entry, and he sometimes he's the entry, sometimes he's also the rabbit that they shoot after, and then I'm allowed to kill them.
Right, when you came to this, the first LAN that you actually played, because I mean, you hadn't qualified for any of the other ones, was when you came to the Blast Spring series and you came along. And it's like, mate, I feel like I was in a fucking movie that week, because even the group you guys had was like, on paper, you had like the most impossible group ever to be an underdog. You had like 3 of the absolute best teams, and in theory, the 3 best players, like everyone's like top 3 players from last year were in your group. So everyone said, right, the only storyline here is like, you know, maybe it's Vitality or Na'Vi with the Strauss, but there's no way complex. We all wrote that off. I'm even in all those fucking intros because I made that banter where when Shocks or whatever, I can't remember if it's Shocks or Semler, was like, oh, we've got, you know, some of the best teams here, and I was like, and complexity, like, because that was just listen. That's where you guys started the tournament. You were a meme at the beginning of the tournament. By the end of just that group stage, that has to be one of the craziest tournaments of your life, mate. I mean, 2-0 in those teams is ridiculous.
I think it was actually crazy because we weren't expecting it. We came into the tournament thinking that, I hope we just take one map of a team or like show that we actually can do some damage. But when we started like grinding out rounds against the good teams, we knew that we had what it takes to actually end number 1 or number 2 in the group. And it was weird for everyone. Like no one was expecting this. We weren't even expecting this ourselves. Like our practice has been dog. Our practice has been so bad. You won't understand. Like we lost to all the teams. We lost to everyone, and we still do today. Like we lose to everyone, but we still win our official games. So
right.
And I think that we are not an online team. We are a LAN team. Like we play better LAN than we do online, and we play way better matches than we do in practice. That's just how it is. Our focus is way different. Our mentality is way different, and it's weird because I've never been in a team like this. I've always played in a team where we played better in practice and played worse in officials. And I don't know if it's people are more calm and collected in games, or if we like I don't even know. Like we just lose every single practice, but we still manage to win against the best teams in the world online and on LAN.
That's actually very impressive then, because if people don't know, another thing that you guys managed to get into complexity, and this is also where I was impressed with the complexity org, because another thing is, I made this video where I alluded to this, back in 1.6 when they had the lineup with Fraud and all the Warden, all those guys in complexity, another thing they were infamous for is they were like the most dedicated team as well. Like they used to literally play all the practice games and practice for every online game. Like they were putting in mad hours, and so like, yeah, if then people then get results, like it's a great story, not like you're the most dedicated team. Your team, I remember there was a stat where in 3 months you'd played just official matches like over 100 maps of Counter-Strike. So that's not including all the scrims and other stuff between. If you guys are doing badly in practice, like how are people able to maintain focus and keep practicing and not, tear each other apart? Like I'm sure some of the past teams you've been in would have.
Well, I think the main reason is that we are really good at playing practice, even though we're losing, and the focus is bad in our practices, but. We just listen to Benjamin calling, and we have to do new tactics almost every single day, or like every other week or stuff like that to develop. How do you explain it? Like we need to do our tactics in practice, to do them in officials, right? To make them pure, to make them perfect, to make them right on timing, and that's what we do in practices the most. Is like making sure that everything is like Benjamin wants it to be, and our coach, of course. And I think that's the main reason that we are actually a insane team T-side as well.
Even though you say, I mean, it's actually good that considering there's barely any lands this year, it's so good that you had that blast result. Because otherwise, when you won this blast online thing, I'm sure everyone would have said, like they did all about big, like, oh, just onliners, just because it's online, it's not online, But that's sort of, I noticed, you guys didn't get that same kind of vibe because you'd had the performances at least online and you'd beaten these top teams. What was this tournament like, though? Because this was like another miracle run. Like, and it's amazing the run you had. I mean, no one beat you. Nobody was able to beat you.
That tournament was insane for us. Like it meant everything for us as a team. Like we just had a bad period, a little bit of losing some games and losing some officials against some worse teams than us in the Home Sweet Home Cups. And when we won Blast, we were just so hyped. Like no one would have ever thought that it was happening. We were still a new team back then. We've only played together for like a year now. But we still managed to win the Blast online. Like I wish it was LAN, because then there's still some people that says to us that it was just an online tournament. It didn't matter and stuff like that, which I think is bullshit in my opinion. Like we beat the best teams on LAN, and we can go to a LAN again and we can beat them again. Like, if you don't think that we are a good team yet, then I think you need to take a sack over your head. Like I think it's a wrong impression of us as a team. I think we are a top team. I think we have top players. I think we have what it takes to win a LAN tournament and to win a major possibly at some point. Like we just need to play more together and learn each other.
Even though, listen, I mean, it's never going to be as cool as if you'd been and had a big trophy and you had the stage set up of being online. It's in the online period. These big tournaments, like if it is this Blast Finals or if it'd been ESL One Club, these tournaments still mean something, though, right?
Every tournament means something for us. Every single tournament. It doesn't matter if it's a 9-5 cup or a Home Sweet Home cup or if it's IM Katowice online, or if it was a major online. It wouldn't matter. Everything means. All the tournaments means a lot to us. Like we want to win everything, and we want to prove that we are the juggernaut. It's not a meme anymore.
Where do you think that you, like I said before, it would have been really easy if, it could have been me and Astralis and they win everything. It's easy. Like a lot of people would be resentful then, or they'd think, oh, I'm never going to get that. Where are you at in your career now? Like, where do you have things stabilised from the problems before? Where are you at the moment, do you think?
I think I'm in a good position to become a really, really good player. I think I'm in a good position to become a healthy person as well, to fix my personal problems. I think that they are almost gone now. I don't have any issues anymore. I just need to get back on my own level, and I think that I'm in the right environment to actually prove that I'm still one of the best players in the world.
Do you actually do you care about things like if people rank you in lists of players or people call you the star player? Like, is that something like I mean, if someone's young, for example, one of the main reasons why people want to be like a soccer star is they want to be the striker and score the winning goal, and that, it's every kid's dream, and that's it. Do you care about that stuff? Is that important? Do you want to be thought of when you retire as you were one of the best Danish players, not just you were a player?
Not really, kinda, but not really. I want to be known as a good Danish player. I don't want to be known as the best player in the team. I want to be known as, yeah, you made the team win, and I want to be a part of the winning team. I want to be a part of complexity because we're winning. We're winning together. I'm not winning individually. I wouldn't I wouldn't be able to win if I was alone on the server. I've thought about this a lot actually, and I think there's a lot of up-and-coming young players that wants to be the best player in the server and also do. I did a lot of mistakes back in the day because I wanted to have more kills than the other guys and stuff like that. But I think my mentality have changed over the years, like playing with all these different players, playing with on all these different teams. That I finally seen that it doesn't matter to me that I'm the top fracking player on the team when we're winning. Like if we're winning, we're winning, and I just need to think to myself that I played a good match, and that's what matters the most to me.
What about, and like not in the complexity lineup you're currently in, but just over your career, because you've played with a lot of different teams and teammates, who was like a teammate that you would pick out that was really underrated, who never got their proper credit from fans, or just no one ever talked about these types of players? Who would you pick out?
Rubino. I think Rubino would be my pick, honestly, because I think that people just like kind of ruined him a little bit, wrote all this kind of shit about him, saying that he was the worst player in the team that we played in. But I think he was actually one of the most important players that we had, because we saw that our North team kind of fell apart when we threw him out of the team as well. Like
Sure.
he was one of the players that actually helped us stay calm and helped us stay hyped and helped us just like developing us as players and as a team. And I think that Rubino, like he kind of left himself, you know, like we didn't throw him out of the team. He had some problems that he dealt with, so he left the team. And I think that he's really sorry that he left. And I think that if he stayed, he would have been on a good team today as well.
Sure. All right. At the end of this interview, do you have like a final message for people who watched it, or the people you want to thank that were a part of your journey?
I want to thank Complexity, honestly, for saving me, and I want to thank you, Thorin, for the article. I haven't wrote it to you. Just only replied on Twitter, you know, with me saying that I want to fix my life and not just do nothing and sit there and look into a wall. I'm actually trying to get back on my level now, and I think that I'm on a good path with Complexity and with my teammates. BlameF, Obo, Rush, and Poison, and Kita and Anton, our analyst. I think that everybody is helping me to become a better player and become more stable than I've ever been. And I hope that this journey never ends.
Mange tak.
Mange tak.
This video was kindly supported by Dean Tanglis, Pronogo, Alexander Rao, Andreas Krocknies, Eric Hillestad, Hades, J-Dubs, the Puyallup Tribe, Tobias Bernasconi, Vatrisam, Zinged, James Peterson, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my boy Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Do you want to ask a question in my monthly video AMA? Do you want teasers? See who the upcoming guests are going to be? Maybe you'd like to take part in one of those monthly donated discussions with me about esports. Well, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrolluminati today in the Patreon link in the description box below.